It's just better if Olivia doesn't come to the wedding. It will keep the peace. I stood frozen on the porch, my hand hovering over the doorbell, listening to my mother's voice drift through the screen door. My father's muffled agreement followed. She'll understand. This day needs to be about family unity, not her feelings. What they didn't know was that the bag at my feet wasn't just for a weekend visit. It was packed for a life they would never see coming. Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm 26 years old, and for my entire life, I've been the complicated one in my family. The quiet, bookish daughter, the one whose sensitivity was always misunderstood for fragility, whose need for quiet was labeled as aloofness. My older sister, Elise, was the sun everything orbited around, effortlessly charming, the life of every party, the golden child, whose engagement was treated like a national holiday. I had learned to make myself small, to agree, to nod along, all in the name of keeping the peace. But hearing those words on the porch, I realized a devastating truth. The peace they wanted could only exist in my absence. If you've ever been made to feel like your very presence is an inconvenience, then you need to hear what happened next. Subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from, because I was about to give them exactly what they asked for, but in a way they never, ever expected. The cracks had been showing for years, but I'd become an expert at plastering over them. I found out about Elise's engagement the way I found out about most family milestones, through a flood of Instagram notifications. A picture of her and her fiancé, her hand strategically placed to show off a massive diamond. The caption read, "Said yes to forever with my soulmate. So blessed to have the support of my incredible family." My family. But I hadn't received a call, a text, nothing. When I phoned my mother, her voice was clipped. "Oh, Olivia, we've been so busy with the planners. There's a meeting at our house tomorrow to discuss things. Try to be on time." The emphasis on try was a familiar sting. The next evening, I walked into a war room. My parents' living room was strewn with fabric swatches, floral arrangements, and a giant calendar covered in red pen. Elise held court from the center of the sofa, Mark by her side, while my parents looked on like proud royal subjects. "Olivia, you're here," my mother said, not looking up from a color palette. "We need to talk about your role in the wedding." A flicker of hope ignited in my chest. Maybe I'd misjudged. Maybe they wanted me to be a bridesmaid after all. Elise finally glanced at me, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "We've decided it's best if you aren't in the wedding party. Or honestly, at the wedding itself." The room tilted. "What?" My father cleared his throat. "Now, Olivia, don't make a scene. You know how you get at these large gatherings. You retreat into a corner, it casts a pall. Elise doesn't need that kind of energy on her day." "Energy?" I whispered, my throat tight. "Your melancholy," my mother clarified, as if diagnosing a condition. "Last year at Christmas, you barely spoke. At Aunt Carol's anniversary, you left after an hour. We just think it's better for everyone if you watch the live stream. It will be less stressful." "Less stressful for who?" I asked, my voice trembling. "For everyone," Elise said sharply. "This is my day. I need it to be perfect. And you, Olivia, have a way of making things imperfect." The conversation was a practiced dance. They had their lines ready, their justifications neatly prepared. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was a verdict that had been reached long before I entered the room. The betrayals that followed were a death by 1,000 cuts. A few days later, my cousin Leah texted me, "Hey, I'm so sorry you can't make it to the wedding. Mom said you have a really important work conference that weekend." A work conference? I was a freelance illustrator. I worked from my apartment. They had invented a lie to make my exclusion seem like my choice. Then the wedding website went live. The Our Story page featured photos of Elise and Mark with my parents, with captions like, with her loving parents, and supported by her amazing family. I was cropped out of a family vacation photo, replaced by a scenic shot of a mountain. But the final, breathtakingly cruel request came a week before the wedding. My mother called, her voice sickly sweet. "Olivia, darling, since you won't be having the expense of attending the wedding, we were wondering if you could contribute to the champagne toast. It's a significant cost, and it would mean so much to Elise. Consider it your wedding gift." They wanted me to pay for the champagne they would drink while toasting the family I was no longer considered a part of. I agreed. I agreed to everything. I told them I understood. I said I'd be happy to watch the live stream. I even transferred the money for the champagne. I became the compliant, understanding Olivia they always wanted me to be. But while they were congratulating themselves on how well they'd handled me, I was executing a plan of my own. Those quiet evenings at home were spent researching. The work deadlines were trips to the bank and the passport office. The family dog Barnaby, who I was supposed to be dog sitting at their house during the wedding weekend, was the perfect cover. My best friend Lena was my only confidant. "They think they're banishing you," she said, her eyes blazing with indignation. "They have no idea they're setting you free. Go, see everything you've ever talked about seeing." The morning of the wedding, I was at the airport. As my family was heading to the hair salon, I was at gate B42. My phone rang just as I was about to board my flight to Reykjavik. "Olivia, honey," my mother's voice chirped. "Just checking you're all set at the house. Is Barnaby settled?" I looked out the window at the massive plane. "He's fine, Mom." "Good. We're about to head to the venue. Thank you for being so mature about all of this. I knew you'd come around." "Actually, Mom, there's been a change of plans." "Oh, what's that?" "Well, I'm not at the house. I'm at the airport." Silence. Then a choked, "What? The airport? Why?" "Well, you said it was better for everyone if I wasn't at the wedding, so I won't be. I'm going to Iceland, then Norway. I'll be gone for a month." The phone was snatched away. My father's voice boomed. "Olivia, this is insane. You have responsibilities, the dog, the house." "Barnaby has an automatic feeder and a dog walker scheduled. The house is fine. You wanted a wedding day without any complications from me. You've got it. Consider me disappeared." I hung up, switched my phone to airplane mode, and boarded the flight. For the next 4 weeks, I didn't just disappear. I remade myself. I posted pictures of myself standing before thundering waterfalls in Iceland, hiking fjords in Norway, and getting lost in the cobblestone streets of Edinburgh. In every photo, I was smiling, not the tight, nervous smile from family functions, but a real, radiant, free smile. The fallout was immense, but it was a storm I watched from a blissful distance. When I finally returned, tanned and steady, there were tearful voicemails, angry texts, and attempts at guilt. Elise sent a long email saying my stunt had overshadowed her wedding day because guests kept asking where I was. The narrative of the important work conference had collapsed under the weight of my geotag photos. Some apologies were offered, but they were laced with blame. "I'm sorry you felt excluded," my mother said. The apology wasn't for what they did, but for how I reacted. But the profound change was within me. Their words no longer had the power to shrink me. I had proven to myself that I was capable, resilient, and deserving of a space in the world, a space I carved out for myself, far from their dining room table. They thought by excluding me, they were maintaining their perfect picture. They never imagined I'd go out and paint a masterpiece of my own. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been told you're the problem when you were just being yourself, I want to hear from you. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Share your own story of breaking free. And if you're ready to start choosing your own peace, hit that subscribe button. Your worth is not determined by their willingness to see it.